Department staffers and the New York Times reporter Ken Vogel. We obtained those emails exclusively. In examining archived White House vigorous visitor logs, we came across two names that piqued our interest. The first, the person who checked the Ukrainians into the White House the day of the meeting. Hell, that person has been identified by some as the impeachment whistleblower. The second point, another person at the 2016 meeting, Andrei Telizhenko, he worked at the Ukrainian embassy at the time, and as we reported last night, was quoted in a 2017 Politico article, also by Ken Vogel, explaining how he was forced to work with a DNC operative to hurt Trump. Well, Telizhenko saw part two of our investigation last night, and tonight he's decided to speak out. On being pressured to hobble Trump's 2016 campaign, he told the Ingraham angle, "I was told to work and cooperate with Mrs. Chalupa, a DNC operative, by Ambassador Chali. Chalupa asked me to help her get dirt on presidential candidate Donald Trump. I never coordinated any work with her or the DNC because I did not support the unethical orders to work and assist one party." He also provided these documents, a White House invite, and a schedule of the meeting listing two names, one associated with the whistleblower, whose name we blacked out, and Elizabeth Zentos, both from Obama's NSC. Telizhenko also told us that while the meeting was touted as a, quote, prosecutor's training program, much of the conversation revolved around the Bidens and Burisma. And it wasn't the Ukrainians who brought up Bidens and Burisma. Telizhenko said the representatives of the DOJ, U.S. Embassy in Kiev, and NSC staff raised the question of the Burisma investigation. Most of the NSC staff were people from Biden's team. Wow. You getting this focus now? Joining me now, Byron York, chief political correspondent for The Examiner, and Sarah Carter, host of the Sarah Carter podcast, both Fox News contributors, and Lee Smith, investigative journalist, author of The Plot Against the President. All right, Sarah, how can Democrats continue to claim the Bidens and Burisma have no relevance to this?
They can't. This is the point, and this is the reason why Adam Schiff doesn't want to call the whistleblower. This is the reason why he doesn't want any more information coming out, because what we know now is those connections were so deep inside the State Department. And by the way, it's not only Ukraine. You hear this coming from other countries with the Obama administration, officials in other countries. I give you an example. In Guatemala, the same thing. Pressure from the State Department to do things their way or they'll withhold aid. So this is nothing new. I think right now we're at the cusp of something really big. This is an explosive report, Laura. This is huge and absolutely has to be investigated. But who's going to investigate it? The DOJ? The Senate Judiciary?
Well, someone should be doing this other than the Ingraham angle. Byron.
This could be the nexus between the whistleblower and the Biden-Burisma story, where you have concerns in the Obama White House about Hunter Biden's connections in Ukraine. His father is obviously the vice president, and now we know that the person alleged to be the whistleblower was involved with that. And so it makes it very hard. Senators do not want to, Republicans do not want to call witnesses. They don't want any witnesses. But if they had to have a witness, it seems the whistleblower is the one, because I do not believe it is possible to call for the removal of the President of the United States and say some of the evidence has to say secret. It's just got to be a secret.
To invalidate a presidential election? Lee Smith, that whistleblower's name, if that's a whistleblower, reported whistleblower, is on every log for that meeting, meaning he checked everyone in, from the anti-corruption prosecutor in the Ukraine, where it looks like they were discussing what to do about the Bidens and what to do about this corruption in Burisma. That was the focus, and it was billed as something generic so as not to raise eyebrows.
Right. Well, another key point, which you have in the statement from Mr. Telizhenko, is that they're looking for information on candidate Donald Trump. At that point, that seems to cut right to the heart of the impeachment issue here. If their complaint is that the president was looking for information on Biden, and what we're really looking at is, in its sources, they were collecting dirt on candidate Trump in 2016.
And remember, Senator Grassley, we should get into this, Senator Grassley and Senators Johnson wrote a request for records from 2016 White House meetings between the Obama administration and the Ukrainian government officials. And they asked for these records. This is an outstanding request for information. Byron, you know this information is out there.
Yep.
You know every single person at that meeting knows a lot about how this started and how the concern about the conflict arose.
I'll tell you, interest in the whole Hunter Biden story among Republican senators has just gone through the roof in the last 24 hours because they believe Democrats yesterday just completely opened the door to it by being so defensive about it. They want to know more now.
Schiff reacted to this today, made this claim.
Now you'll hear the further defense that Biden is corrupt, that Joe Biden is corrupt, that Hunter Biden is corrupt. If they couldn't get Ukraine to smear the Bidens, they want to use this trial to do it instead.
Sarah, this is, in light of what we've now discovered, this is really funny.
This is really funny because right now, not only did he open the door, and the president's attorney, Jay Sekulow, is so right. It's like, why would you go there? Because now this is where we're going to go, and we're going to expose this corruption. And even more importantly, all of these documents, Laura, that you've been able to show here on the show, that you've been able to expose, actually show that Joe Biden obviously knew everything that was going on before he made those demands.
Good point. Good point, because he's claimed all along
Right.
that he knew very little. It kind of changed the story, but he basically didn't talk to his son about all these issues. When they were flying over to Ukraine together, they didn't really talk much about this.
Right. The American public has now been exposed to 4 consecutive days of Schiffism, as Adam Schiff has been holding forth and defending all sorts of things. Of course, this is what he's been doing for 3 years, obscuring all sorts of abuses, fomenting conspiracy theories, and this is what's been going on for the last 4 days.
But Byron, I have to say the Democrats have been pretty consistent in trying to tar any conversation about the Bidens as a conspiracy theory. That's part of the conspiracy theory, that Ukraine had anything to do with any kind of negative campaigning on Trump.
Well, that was a complaint from Pat Cipollone and the legal team that running for president somehow conferred immunity on Biden, and you couldn't talk about this. The bigger thing, though, to remember about the impeachment right now is Republicans want to get this over with. They want to have the defense present its case, they want to have some questions, and they want to vote it and end it now.
Is there any sense that the moderate Republicans are waffling? I don't get it, but maybe you're hearing something that I'm not. Sarah?
Well, I think Byron's right on this, and this is what I keep hearing too. But I also think there's a very important point. I think that once they opened the door, just as you showed with Adam Schiff, just as we've been hearing over and over ad nauseum for the last 3 days about Biden and about Burisma, we have seen now maybe a little bit of a shift saying, okay, if you're going in this direction, if you really want to push for witnesses, maybe we should just do it.
Well, then it'll be months of this. We'll all be having a lot of fun. All right, thank you all very much. And stay tuned for part 2 of Raymond Arroyo's interview with President Trump, where he discusses his commitment to the life issue, plus what the March for Life participants in D.C. really think of the president. Don't go away.